Man, I have so many reasons I chose this car. I have been a Corvette freak since I was a little kid. I grew up around them in a way, kind of from a distance, not by choice. Obviously, I wanted to be driving them when I was 8 years old, I just couldn't. My mom actually dated a guy that was worked for a construction company, and he was fairly high up, and his thing was he had to keep whatever the newest Vette was. He had, at all times, the best of the best Vette. I think at the time it was a C5 Z06, was the very first Vette that I was ever in. Really small area behind the seats there. I would tuck myself kind of in there and ride between the seats while my mom and he were driving around. And every now and then he would let my mom take it home with her. I don't know why, knowing what I know about cars, like why, and knowing what I know about my mother. I don't know why I did that, but so I got to ride around in it quite a bit. And I always said, you know, I'm gonna have a Vette. And so I did. Later in life, obviously, I ended up with a C7 Z06. I was really fortunate enough to be fairly young when I got that. And when I got into drifting, I knew at the very beginning, like, the Vette is the answer. That's what I want. But when I got into drifting, I knew that I had a good chance of wadding up a car or two for a while. That didn't end up happening. You can still see the original 240 behind me that's in one piece. Well, it's actually in a lot of pieces right now. But the Vette was always the answer. It was just a little bit on the high end of price that I was willing to risk like that. But as I progressed in my driving skill and what I needed from a car, the Vette remained the best answer. So here we are today, and I got what I wanted from the beginning, and hopefully I won't wad it up too soon. To date, my car is basically everything you could ever throw at it to be a Formula Drift Pro-Am car. We got a FDF Mega Mantis angle kit in the front. Basically a built top-end LS1 with some fancy bits and pieces that you'll just have to come check out in person. It's got a really heavy cam lope. We've got the cam, the valve springs, everything to make it live long. The purpose of this car is really not to have the very most power that I could possibly make. It's not to be the biggest, baddest car at the track. It's just to make sure that I can get to the track every time. Every time I get in that car, it's gonna fire up, it's gonna live. Obviously, you know, we're running the bejesus out of these things. I mean, we're putting them through such extreme levels of abuse that if you kind of expect things to fail and you maybe put them right before their failure point, not all the way up to it, that's kind of the way I'm trying to treat this car, to where, yeah, I can make a really healthy amount of power with an LS1, a 5.7, without going to a 6.2 or stroking it or forced induction or anything like that. I do have a forced induction V8 car when I want to go for that kind of big power, but that car, obviously, you know, it's not going to make it to the track as many times, and when it does get to the track, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive to run. But other than that, you know, just the safety stuff, the roll cage, the fire suppression system, really nice dual caliper handbrake. I personally, as a drift car driver, live by the dual caliper game. I don't like the inline thing. When you're left foot braking and pulling handbrake, and when you get into kind of the finer movements of drifting, not just playing around, it just causes problems. It's just not my thing. So a Willwood dual caliper is pretty much always my first mod to a drift car. It's kind of a must-have, if you will. But other than that, yeah, it's a very simple car. That's the purpose of the car, and that's how I hope to keep it as much as possible. My favorite mod? Gosh, my favorite mod, I would have to say, I know this sounds really stupid. So on the horn button of, of my steering wheel and my C5, It doesn't have a horn, but so instead of having just like a blank piece or an open place where you can see the wires or whatever, I actually cut a piece of black plastic and used a vinyl cutter to cut out. I have this little thing I do with my initials. It's like a WC, and the C turns into like a cloud under it. I've been doing that for years on several business things and stuff that I've done. So I cut one of those out of gold vinyl because I have a bunch of gold on my wrap, and that's like the center of my horn. Every time I get in the car, that makes me smile. So I'd say that's probably my favorite. I know it's dumb, but it's gotta be.
That's very unique. That's very unique. That's cool.
You know, actually, it's pretty easy to answer. If I could go back from the beginning, I probably would have waited. I know it wouldn't have really been possible. That's the thing. Where I had to get with this car in the amount of time that I had, I just kind of did what I did. But if I had the time to wait, I would have got a roll cage kit instead of having it pieced together by a local fab shop. That has been a nightmare to get it to fit correctly and have the removable roof work correctly. It's just not been easy. And honestly, it got done last night or night before last or something like that. And I'm still not even sure that it's like legal because of just, there's certain areas in a Corvette where if you look at the Formula Drift rules and then you look at the Corvette and how much space you have to work with, just certain angles don't really work. And once you get past the footwells, there's nothing to weld to, there's just fiberglass. So instead of intrusion bars, we have intrusion plates, and it's kind of a mess. So the cage work I would have done differently. Everything else, I mean, it's been a really good car. I mean, and even still, regardless of that, it's still a really good car. And if that's wrong, I'll fix it. So it'll be all right. That's part of motorsports. Future plans for the car would be to just keep taking it basically as far as I can comfortably with that chassis. I don't really have any further aspirations with the C5 than Formula Drift Pro-Am. I would like to use that car in its current form, naturally aspirated, super reliable, all throughout Pro-Am, hopefully earn a Pro Spec license. Once I move up to Pro Spec, I think the realistic decision there is to move up to a C6. So I'd say this car is almost, honestly, as far as it's going to go, as far as mods and whatnot. I think where I want this car to go from here is more to do with me and me as a driver progressing, not so much the car. The car should do what it's made to do. It's up to me to make it happen. So. Oh, no, I got a whole list of those. Yeah, no, so best comments, everybody loves the sound. The cam that it has, the exhaust that it has, the headers that it has, it just kind of sounds like a screaming banshee, especially when it's up at like 7,200 RPMs where I spin it. So everybody loves the sound, everybody loves the wrap. The wrap is, if you haven't, I'm sure you're probably looking at it right now. I don't know why I'm even saying that. It's purple and gold and really cool and stuff. Everybody likes that. The things that people don't like so much, I guess some less than enthused older people that are, you know, other Corvette fans that don't really love what I'm doing with it. That's just par for the course. I don't really care what they have to say. I have a nice one in the garage too. I don't beat on it, but really altogether the reception of this car from the beginning has been very positive. Everybody loves to see a Corvette doing what they don't think it should be able to do. What they don't realize is it's actually really good for it out of the box. You don't have to do that much. Everybody that tells you, oh, a Corvette's bad for drifting, they're wrong. They just don't know how to drive. So, but yeah, no, I love the car. Everybody loves the car for the most part, and I just couldn't be more pleased with it. My very first car was a 1971 Jeep Commando that I purchased when I was 8 years old. Yeah, so I was 8 years old and my dad went to buy a boat from a guy, and there was this 1971 Jeep Commando, like literally off in the woods where you could just kind of see the hood sticking out. And I saw it and I was like, oh wow, what's that? And it just looked cool because like little me had never seen anything that kind of looked like a Jeep but like had a truck bed. Like if you know what a Jeep Commando is, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a completely different kind of thing. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I kind of like made a joke to the guy, like whatever an 8-year-old does to make a joke. About like, oh, is that for sale? And he was like, yeah, definitely. And at the time I had saved like $200 from allowance or Christmas or birthday. I'm not even sure really. So I offered him $200 and he said yes. And to my happiness, my dad was totally down to go back later and get it, because my dad's a gearhead too. And so we spent several years really. I think I was 10 or 12 years old when it finally got done, but we built that motor, we redid the transmission, we did the differential. That's where I really kind of got my love of wrenching on things. And I never actually, it's funny, I never drove that car as a licensed driver. I did drive that car as soon as it got running. I think I was 9 at the time. That's when I learned to drive a manual transmission on public roads. Like, come on, Dad, what are you thinking? But that was it. That's where it started. And from there, I guess my first like legal car was a Toyota FJ Cruiser. I was kind of into the more off-road stuff for my own cars because I was blessed to also be doing motorsport off of the road. So it did never really occur to me to have super high performance cars until later in life. I think what fuels my passion for cars is the feeling that they give me. I don't know of anything else. You know, I have, you know, motorcycles and dirt bikes and stuff like that in my past that I've had a lot of fun with. And I think everything I've ever done has really kind of been searching for that next little bit of excitement. I'm not looking for anything that's going to kill me or anything like that. I'm not a maniac, but I need to kind of tame the dragon in a way, if I think that's the correct saying. And for me, drifting and this whole lifestyle has been the best way I've ever had of doing that. I mean, the community around it, everybody at the track. I have, you know, everybody has expensive tools, and you know, like a Milwaukee Impact is several $100s, but there's nobody at these tracks that could walk up to me that I don't trust to just go use it, and then they're going to bring it back to me, and they'll probably wipe it off before they give it back to me and stuff. So I just think, you know, surrounding yourself with something that can make your entire life better, I really think that's what it is, because, you know, you have a community, you have something to set goals for. It keeps you centered, and for me, it's really good to have those next goals. You know, I really want to do well in Pro-Am. I really want to get a Pro Spec license. I really want to see myself in Pro 1. It's not for the fame and the glory or anything. It's just for the accomplishment, and to be able to say that, yeah, I was able to be a good enough driver to push myself far enough to go through all the hassle of actually getting the car there. Because believe me, in this shop, there's all kinds of hassle that takes place just to make sure the car even works. But it's all worth it, because it's that next step. It's that little bit of progression that I can watch myself do. Yeah, no, definitely. Cosmic Garage is the guys I've been running with. You know, it's funny, the very first drift event I ever went to, Nate Sarton, shout out to my buddy Shark Car Nate, I'm sure you guys know him. He was at that event too. It was his very first drift event, and up in Beach Bend, Kentucky. Really, really great place. If you guys haven't been there, it's in Bowling Green. Definitely go see the drifting there. It's a good track. We were both there, and he came over. He's one of those people. He borrowed my Milwaukee Impact because he had sheared off his harmonic balancer bolt, and so he's pouring oil all over the tracks, and we kind of became friends over that. And he was there with some other guys with Cosmic Garage, and it's really grown quite a bit over the last couple of years, to where we now have 6 drivers that are actively participating in events and now competitions and whatnot, and hopefully all of us are going to be seen at the national level of competition not too far from now, so we'll be looking for you guys soon. A little bit about me. Gosh, real estate and race cars, that's pretty much my game. That's the only things that I really do. Real estate, race cars, love my wife, love God. That's about it. That's really the important parts. That's really the only things that I spend time with. So yeah, I mean, if you're not catching me out here in the shop, you can probably catch me out helping somebody buy or sell a house or invest in real estate. I love that stuff just as much as I love race cars, really. In a different way. It doesn't provide the same kind of excitement, but it does provide quite a bit of excitement. It's like real life Monopoly. And just like motorsports, I approach it with a kind of a self-accomplishment. You know, that next skill that I learn helps me on the next deal, helps me on the next whatever. And that's just kind of how I've built my business, and that's the only reason that I'm able to do this drifting stuff in the first place. So I guess if you had to know anything about me, those would probably be the major points. I mean, I have all the weird hobbies in the world, and I drink like a gallon of milk a day, and everybody gives me shit for that. I don't know if I can say shit on this or not, but I just said it twice. But yeah, I mean, that's it. I drink a ton of milk, I drive race cars, I sell houses. Past that, my wife Jacqueline knows everything else that's important, and that's the only 3 or 4 things I care about.